We're live. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the individual co-hosts and do not reflect the official policy or position of the Firearms Radio Network and or their employers. Viewer discretion is advised. This is especially true on live shows. And before we get into tonight's episode with Maj Toure of Black Guns Matter, I want to give you guys or remind you guys about a giveaway that we're doing over at afteractionproject.com/giveaway. We're giving away a gift certificate to Southwest Gunsmith Technologies for one of their laser stippling jobs or Cerakote work. Check those guys out. They're out of New Mexico and doing some great stuff down there. Rick Kennedy and his guys. That's Southwest Gunsmith Technologies for a free Cerakote or laser stippling job. And you can learn more about that, enter to win at afteractionproject.com. If you want to support this show, head on over to patreon.com/afteractionproject. And Maj, why don't you give us a shout out to the Black Guns Matter Patreon and where, if somebody wants to support Black Guns Matter, where can they do that?
Yeah, if they want to support, they all of our classes are crowdsourced and crowdfunded. That's at gofundme.com/Black Guns Matter. If you want to be a monthly subscriber, patreon.com/Black Guns Matter.
That's awesome. And then for the few folks out there that might not be familiar with Black Guns Matter, they're a nonprofit, a firearms nonprofit, but they focus on educating people in urban communities on their rights, their Second Amendment rights and responsibilities. Maj, talk to us a little bit about how Black Guns Matter came to be and the mission from your eyes.
Yeah, it initially started as around 2015. We saw a lot of elections gearing up. The elections were voters registration drives. So we made a joke and we're like, we need a license to carry drive. So we wound up having one. And in the process of having one, so many people came to that class that and they came from Jersey and New York. They didn't know that there were different rules for different states. So we just said, hey, let's just do a GoFundMe and let's do a little mini tour. We had a goal of 13 cities and $25,000. We surpassed that. Then we went and said, let's do it again. Wouldn't it be cool if we did every state in America? And so, 2.5 to 3 years later, here we are. And it's been a great roller coaster ride of informing people. It's about guns and it's about the Second Amendment, but it's also about conflict resolution, de-escalating conflict. And now for the 2019 into 2020 tour, we're adding political education into that because we're at a space where now we're getting the wheels turning as far as urban America being armed, no longer believing that the Second Amendment isn't for urban America, as well as being safe and responsible. We got those wheels turning and guys are picking up after us. But now we have to go, okay, how can we galvanize this energy that we have and turn it into political power in defense of our freedoms and making politicians shift their policies from anti-freedom to pro-freedom. So that's how we started. All of our classes are free to beginners, whoever comes, the classes are free. And we're able to do that by everybody's donations and support. And again, that's gofundme.com/Black Guns Matter.
We'll have that in the show notes as well for anybody that catches it or misses it in there. Talk to us a little bit about why you're focusing on the urban communities and where you see the greatest need in that, I guess, that demographic of gun owners.
Well, the reason for that is because urban America has been designed by design. Gun control is about people control. And there's the most amount of people in urban America. You got cities like New York, 8.5 million people, just the boroughs. They're making policies that the rest of the state is subject to. There might be a little bit more freedom in upstate New York, but the boroughs carrying all of those different things, protecting your rights, protecting your family and loved ones is something that they shy away from. So then you go to places like Chicago, Detroit, Atlanta, Compton, Los Angeles County, all of those counties there. These are places that have dense populations, but you don't want that. Our politicians have kind of switched the game up a bit. They don't want us to have the means to defend our lives and protect us, the people, from tyranny. So the best way to do that is to convince people in those demographics to vote in policies that are in opposition to their personal freedoms, in opposition to the Second Amendment. And by miseducating that demographic, they've done a very good job at it. They've been honestly, they've been much better at PR than we have. people that are pro-freedom and pro-gun. So it's very important to concentrate on those areas, because on conservative estimates, we're missing 40 or maybe even 50 million Americans that we're leaving out of this fight, that have been told in those, metropolises, have been told that, hey, this isn't for you. This is just for white guys in the NRA. Everybody's in the NRA is a Klan member. They don't like you. All of this falsehood and propaganda. So we got to go where the misinformation and the miseducation is the most prominent, and that's urban America. My rural friends and my suburban friends, they have not been hit with that same level of ignorance. It is by design. It's not an accident. It's not an oops. It's not a self-perpetuating thing that, all of urban America just doesn't want to be informed and be safe and responsible and patriots. That is false. If it wasn't true, our classes wouldn't be standing room only. And okay, I get it. The classes are free. However, if people weren't interested in this and they didn't want to know more about the Constitution, more about the Bill of Rights, more about, defending their freedoms, they wouldn't come to our classes. We wouldn't have raised, at this point over the last few years, we wouldn't have been able to raise and give away $160,000 to get people informed. So, urban Americans want this. They just didn't have liaisons or people that they trusted from, quote unquote, the gun or freedom community that looked like them, that felt like them, that smelled like them, that talked like them, that they could trust and give them the information that they needed. And since we've been doing that, we've seen leaps and bounds of urban Americans become informed, become educated, become safe, become responsible, and become armed.
That's awesome, and I think that's something that you hit on a couple key things there. And I think the gun community, by and large, what it has done historically is perpetuated that the FUD stereotype, and I think younger folks like myself and Andy and Judson, we joke about the FUD, and that's the old guy in the NRA that kind of fits into that mold of what an old school typical gun owner looks like. Mm-hmm. And then if we go and we look at what's being, when I talk to people and I see some people that have some anti-gun leanings, a lot of it stems from misinformation, and a lot of it, I find people typically align themselves with, like there are people in the anti-gun crowd that aligns themselves with this idea that gun owners are racist, and they miss the point that it's you and Simon that they say all gun control is racist. Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about, I guess, some of the bigger misconceptions that the urban community has had, that they've kind of seen the light and have seen the counterpoint through Black Guns Matter.
Yeah, one, showing them that, because so initially I let urban America know I'm not a gun dude. I'm a freedom dude. The gun is just a tool to defend the freedoms. They can resonate with that. The other thing is showing urban America, we're very conservative and liberty minded, right? We just lack the languaging because of the education system and what we were told. So one of the biggest misconceptions is like gun control is supposed to make you safer. When you show urban America, it's not like a feeling. It's saying everywhere that there's more gun control, there's more violent crime. Everywhere that there's less gun control and more respect for your, right to defend your life, there's less violent crime. These are very simple things that, even if other people from different demographics were saying it, again, the left, for the most part, has done a masterful job of convincing urban America that what you guys might be saying isn't for them. So when you present that information to them and then lean them with an instructor that's from their town that might happen to be a white dude, might happen to be a black dude, might happen to be a white lady, might happen to be a black lady, Asian, Spanish, whatever, that reconditioning of the mind based on facts from a liaison that they already trust because we're from the same place, that's the hurdle that gets jumped over. And so people start going, so wait, so you're telling me that all of these politicians in my neighborhood have been telling me something that's been a farce? And I go, yeah, simple. 1991, Clinton crime bills get put in, gun-free zones is put there. Since then, over 90% of mass shootings in gun-free zones. That's simple math. You know what I mean? And that's the data. It's not me making it up. John Locke wrote books about it. You know what I mean? And so just getting them in the room, because it's my room. It's where I'm from. South side of Chicago is just like the north side of Philly to me. It's the same thing. So getting us in the room and having that conversation and making sure that the information is legit and sound. And then, you know, at the same time saying, hey, we need you to get on board to help you protect your own freedoms, you know, and then saying, hey, we got to get on board because, you know, 50, 60% of those suicides that those same politicians are using to justify, oh, there's 30,000 gun deaths a year. Some of those are suicides, and we stressed in urban America. People kill themselves because they stress and they're going through stuff and they don't have outlets or they don't think they can listen to somebody. And some of those people are from my demographic, a lot of them. So we're able to push back on that mental health issue and lend assistance there, as well as breaking some of those stereotypes. When people from urban America see, damn, I identify with, I want to be left alone. I want to do what I want to do in my house. I want to, you know, have the right to have privacy, and I want to keep more of my money. I don't want the government in my pocket. When you show them that those are liberty-based principles, those are more conservative-based principles, they go, well, that's how I was doing, you know, it anyway. That translation happens, that light bulb goes off. You can never plug that person back into that matrix again. So that's been one of the most impactful things. This is a war of hearts and minds, right? So it's easy for me to do that because I'm not pretending to be something that I'm not. I am not a gun guy. We're not having a long conversation about, you know, ballistics and the Coriolis effect, and we're not doing it. You know what I'm saying? I might know basics about that, but what I can do is say, if you're interested in that, I can point you in a direction of high level training. I got Buck Doyle's phone number in my phone. Like, I can say, if you're passionate and you're put on this path, we can get you to that level. But here are some of the steps in between. Here are some of these intermediate steps. And if that person's passion goes that direction, they've been put on the path. And again, you can't put that person back to sleep when you've exposed them to that level of freedom. It's just that, again, the other side, the anti-freedom side, has just done a masterful, I got to respect it, they've done a masterful job of tricking urban America, and we the pushback.
So, Maj, I have a question for you. I was sitting in my house the other day. It was actually 2 nights ago. And I had all my nieces and nephews that were local to me in Durango over at my house to do a barbecue and a good time, glass of wine, just enjoy ourselves. And one of my neighbors that I've been helping over the last 2 or 3 months, we've been buried under 80 inches of snow in the last 8 days, and I've constantly gone over to her house and cleared.
Wait, pause for a second. Pause. Did your door just open up by itself?
Yeah, he has a haunted house. It was probably his dog.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I caught it too. I was going to put it in the comments. I was like, oh my God, his house is haunted.
That's my dog. So anyway, long story short, I've been helping this woman for about 3 months this winter clear snow off of her yard, or not her yard, but her like her driveway, her walkways, and all that stuff, her deck. And we invited her over to join us for a barbecue one night, and all my nieces and nephews were here. And one of my nephews came in, and I've got a couple of safes in my room. There's one behind me over here, and then my small one, and my big one's next to me over here. And one of my nephews was like, "Hey, can you show us some of your rifles and stuff?" And they're 10 or 12 years old, and they're like, all in that like Nerf war era. And I was like, "Sure, absolutely." So I opened up my safe and I started showing him some of the rifles and whatnot. And this lady walked in, and she kind of looked, and she kind of like took a step back, and she didn't really know what I do for a living, but we started talking about it, and I was like, okay, so yeah, this is what I do. I train people how to use firearms, and I was like, I don't know your view on this. What are your thoughts on this? And she looked at me and she was like, I don't think anyone should ever own one of those. And it kind of caught me off guard. So I asked her, I was like, hey, are you willing to sit down with me and have a conversation about, firearms? And I'll give you my perspective, you give me yours, and we'll, see if we can come to a common ground. And she said, absolutely, I'd love to hear that. So my question to you is, do you ever get people that show up to your class that are like vehemently anti-gun, and how do you deal with that? I mean, and I'm not even sure that she's vehemently anti-gun. I think she's just more like morally anti-gun? Like I mean, guns kill things, right? So, I mean, how do you deal with people that show up to your classes and they have that really anti-gun, kind of feeling?
The weird thing is, I don't get that in my classes. The people that come to the classes are like, they fall in a few categories. One, I kind of like this guy. He sounds like he's saying some things that I've had questions about. He doesn't look like, the guy that I thought was like the gun guy. So I'm more receptive, but I don't know anything. That's one person. The other person is, I like this guy. I'm a gun guy. I want to meet this guy. So I'm going to go to the class. Or it's I never heard of you. I'm with the person that brought me, and I don't even know what I'm walking into. The anti-gun people, they're afraid because we urban. They don't come to the places where I'll be having the classes at. So as much as they say they want to help the community and guns are bad, guns are bad, guns are bad, I'm saying, hey, we're doing gun classes and training, and there's going to be instructors there and conflict resolution. They don't come. I run into those people in different places. But the first thing that I lead with is I understand that person, usually that type of person that said what you said, what she said, they usually have a trauma. I try to find what their trauma is first. I'm scared of guns because my brother got shot.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
You know what I mean? When
Yeah.
I can find out what their trauma is, I don't even talk about guns anymore. I let them express their trauma, what they felt, what they went through. And as we're talking about it, at a certain point, they'll either ask me, so how does guns make that better for me? And I'll say, well, listen, we don't have to really talk about guns unless you're comfortable. We can more so talk about, freedom and safety. And the question that I usually get to is, if that person, that your loved one that was harmed or possibly killed with a firearm by that ignorant person that did the wrong thing with the tool, if you could rewind time, would you want your loved one to possibly have the means to defend their life from that idiot? And at that point, it's a new paradigm. I didn't say, do you want a gun? You should have a gun. Any of that. I'm saying that person that you've lost or was harmed, would you have liked for them to at least have the possibility to defend their life? There's an overwhelming answer there is, yes, I would have. And then it's, well, that's what we do. We want people that choose, after they've gotten all of the information, all of the safety components, that want to have the ability to, if they choose to, defend their life, they have the means to do so from a knowledgeable, safe, and responsible place. I have never, ever heard a person say, nope, I don't want my dead loved one to have the ability to defend their life in that situation. So I just start with the trauma. For me, separating the gun from the person and the ignorance, the person that did the wrong thing with the tool, is a critical component, but identifying if that person has trauma first. Secondly, if that person hasn't had a trauma, 99.9% of the time, they misinform. That's the person that says, guns are bad and the people that have guns are killers. And I'll say, well, law enforcement or military guys that's protecting our country, are they evil? And it's a way to make them just kind of look at it from a different perspective. That person that hasn't had a trauma, that's in that moral space, has been fed misinformation 99.9% of the time. And it's just a respectful dialogue. And I'll let them know, hey, listen, I don't want you to have a gun if you don't want one. You know what I'm saying? More for me, whatever.
Yeah, agreed. So so I have a follow-up for that, and then I'll turn it back over to Jeremy, because I tend to go like wolves, and that's just kind of me. But you said you're not a gun guy, but
Yeah.
you're constantly putting on these gun-related type of educational events.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, do you carry? Are you allowed to carry? And if you are,
Yeah, I got a G19 on me right now.
Okay. So you do carry, and you do, practice what you preach. What makes you think that you're not a gun guy? Because I mean, like, personally, I feel like, words have meaning, but there's instructional, fact and opinion and all that stuff. But to me, a gun guy is somebody that, wakes up in the morning, takes a shower, and straps a gun to his hip and goes out and does his day. And then he has a safe full of stuff, and he trains all the time. So why do you say you're not a gun guy if you still carry?
I haven't been. Gun guys to me are like, I'm a beginner because I haven't put enough time for my definition. So let's start with what my definition of a gun guy is. I think I fit your description of what a gun guy is. My definition of a gun guy is somebody that has taken studious levels and years of practice into the craft of knowing the history, the origins. There's a craft there. Just because, okay, I got guns. I got guys that get their LTC and they got a gun, but they don't train. I can't identify them as a gun guy. You get what I'm saying?
I was muted. I totally get that, and I agree with you. I think that there's several different types of. I mean, we're in a broad spectrum of firearms owners.
Yeah.
You got your democratic hunters that have their 270 and 30-06 that they just go out and kill a deer with once a year. They fire one round a year, kind of thing.
Right.
And then on the other side of the spectrum, you've got your professional trainers, your Jeremy Gills, your Andy Montoyas, your Sean Herons, your Tim Knights, that are, they are totally into it. We take and teach classes constantly. Right. So where do you think you fall in that spectrum?
None of them. Because of the tour. So first thing, when you start loving something and you start sharing it with other people, it's usually the first thing that you're not even able to do anymore because you're involving so many other people in it, right? So right. One, I don't train enough anymore. I don't have time. And this is keeping it a buck. Like I could probably go to any, it's a weird dynamic. So for example, I used to go to the range, however many times a week. I used to live up the street from my range, right? Then the tour happens. You are not as consistent as you would like to be, or even to get your skill set. So, do I drive practice every day? Yes. Do I study every day? Yes. Am I at the range 4 times a week anymore? No. Do I have access to higher level trainers? Yes. Do I meet guys and women that are intermediaries that are trying to take their thing to the next level? Yes. But I can plug those people with those people. So I don't fall into those categories because I'm not an instructor. I have not put 5 years of my life into consistent study of firearms. I don't even really own revolvers. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not a dude that all of my guns are, black polymer, for the most part, modern firearms. So I think that it's a bit offensive for me as a person that's a galvanizer of people, right? I think it's a bit rude of me to disrespect guys that have put 10, 15, 20 years of their life into training for me to call myself an instructor. Can I run through a basic handgun and rifle class? Yep. That doesn't make you a qualified instructor, nor does that mean just because you're proficient at something, it doesn't make you a master. Better for me and better for our community for me to galvanize beginners and put them with instructors in their community. I know my lane. It's no different than there's a reason why the gun community had this hole in it, because all of the gun guys weren't doing this part. They weren't going because they had to spend so much time in training. And then if they create a company behind training, they have to charge people. Now, how do you get poor middle class, lower middle class, and poor people involved? You can't do that at the same time as make a living with a single mom that single mom doesn't even understand why she's fighting yet. So if I can remove that barrier to entry for free, and then in the city that she's in, have an actual trainer come and go, okay, I got you here. I'll get your mind and your heart right. But now after that part is removed, now you have the basic, firearm safety components, why you're fighting and you're being safe and responsible. Now it's assembly line time. Now it's time for me to pass you off to someone that is better suited to take you to the range, to work with you consistently, and you should make sacrifices to give that person money to do that.
Yeah, agreed. That's a really great point. And, I have one more thing I want to add to this, and I'll kick it back over to Jeremy. But Maj, if you're ever in any area that I'm teaching an instructor level course, I would love to have you in my class, free of charge, obviously. And I would love for you to go through the instructor course and get certified as an instructor through us, because, Jeremy and Andy and myself, we take this very, very seriously. And that's just one more, certificate you can put on your wall behind you or whatever. So, Maj, let's get together on a private chat sometime, and we'll see if we can get you somewhere where I'm teaching. So, Jeremy, you've been kind of silent. So
yeah, I wanted to comment on the gun guy thing. I think everybody in the firearms industry would consider Maj a gun guy. I think if for what you do, the educator, in bringing other educators and instructors together, I think and you're probably aware of it, the gun guy stigma would probably do some harm than what you're doing. Typically, gun guys pigeon them holes into doing one or two things, and it's not about freedom. It's about the Second Amendment is this and shall not be infringed. And it's like, hey, you keep saying shall not be infringed, but look at all these infringements that you're okay with. So that in following you and seeing what you do, it's there are things where it's like, man, how has this been? Like, how is this just now? You said you started Black Guns Matter started in 2015.
Yeah, end of 2015, going into the 2016 cycle of lecture cycle.
In the movement that it's become, it's like, well, why wasn't this a thing sooner? So I had a couple questions from the live feed. Tim Knight wants to know where he can buy one of those hoodies.
That's my guy, Tim. What up?
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Everybody can get the shirts at blackgunsmatter.myshopify.com. So it's on Shopify. Black Guns Matter on Shopify.
So blackgunsmatter.myshopify.com. Okay. And then he also wanted to know if you've had help from any other groups and who can do a better job helping out with the Black Guns Matter.
So I'm mad at Tim, I love you. I'm mad at the NRA right now because I think the NRA would be an excellent organization to do what they said they were going to do for Black Guns Matter. I'm mad. I feel like that would break some stigma around what the left, and I hate to keep saying the left, but it's just what it is. They've painted the NRA as a very racist group. There are some racists in the rank and file of the NRA. That's it. There's some scumbags in Black Guns Matter. Sorry. That's it. The rank and file is good and bad and everything. They have had a position where I got Chris Cox's phone number in my phone. Wayne LaPierre said he wanted to work with us. It's never happened. Dana literally told Pete Brownell when he was the president, Maj is an asset. Why are we not getting behind this? Pete Brownell, on his own accord, not as the president, just was like, here's $5,000 for the work. Not for my pocket, for the work. Pete Brownell, when we started another campaign for this year, I didn't ask him. He just donated $1,000. The NRA could, by supporting the work that we're doing on the ground level financially, the NRA could put such a blow to the left's narrative that the NRA is a Ku Klux Klan white supremacist group by just our goal for the rest of the year is maybe $34,000 to get through the entire rest of the year. That is the NRA's catering budget for some things. It's not me being funny. I'm mad at them. I'm mad because this is an area we could show a show of unity that would snatch so many rugs from the under the feet of the anti-freedom side. So I think they could do a better job. That's one. That's not doing enough. They can't go to the places that we go. I could walk 1 million dues-paying members from urban America into the NRA. I could do that. But it got to be legit. It got to be legit. And the way that the left has presented the NRA, my demographic goes, well, why would I? To touch on that point, one more before I give some solutions. When Pete Brownell donated that $5,000, we squeezed 3 cities out of that. There were guys that were hitting me up because I post all of the big donations, all of the donations, actually. People hit me up and said, man, from the hood, said, man, I've never been camping in my life. I'm going on brownells.com right now, and I'm buying camping equipment that I don't even know if I'm going to use just because they got behind the work that you're doing. The demographic understands people putting their money where their mouth is. It's been 2 or 3 years now. I didn't go buy a fancy car with the money. I gave it all away. I gave away. My partner and I, Janine, gave away $160,000 to educate urban America. That's what we did. So it will be different if I was saying I showed up with a Bentley. I want a Bentley. I'm not there yet. So organizations that have the funds and the resources, they can show a show of unity that will be very difficult for the other side to combat. The organizations that have done that, National Shooting Sports Foundation, $10,000, go, do what you're doing. People are watching me. They see that we're doing the right thing with the money. U.S. Law Shield, $10,000 over time. Firearms Policy Coalition, $5,000. They don't have to. We're going to be fine. We're still going to do what we got to do. However, when you see organizations that don't have the same level of resources putting that money up, it makes you ask the question, what are y'all doing? I've been on all of the NRA TV's platforms. I've been on Breitbart. Shouts to AWR Hawkins, who's a gun guy, who's a doctor of guns. You know what I'm saying? These are the things that I want to see done better. Not for Maj's pocket. I'm fine. If this all goes away, I'm going to open a dispensary and get to $5 million. That's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? With that being the case, these are the areas that we have to show. This is a great symbol that ties into substance as well. No one can say that the NRA is racist. I'm putting an open call out right now. And National Rifle Association. We have about $30,000 left for this year. You guys know, you high-ranking officials over there, know that you said you were going to give us $30,000 a year and a half ago for our work. You didn't. I'm calling you out. This would be the greatest our largest donor so far has been $10,000. Racist organizations do not give hood-ass Maj $30,000 to go educate urban America. If you wanted to show a symbol of solidarity, that's what you could do. Any of those rich guys that are hearing that, if you want to be the biggest donor and say, I'm going to donate to the GoFundMe, totally transparent. If you want to donate to GoFundMe to say, we are the largest single donor to Black Guns Matter, we wanted to handle the rest of their 2019, we would honor it. Urban America would support that, and there would be a return on that investment. So I'm not the person that says, well, you're not supposed to get nothing. No, you are supposed to highlight those types of deeds. I think a lot of times we take our charity and, we highlight our fancy cars. We highlight our new guns, our new toys. We don't highlight the good that we do to support this fight. And I think we should, so those are some of the organizations that have done the work. And we didn't even get to the general public people that have donated $5. We post that too. $5 at McDonald's, you're living like a king. That's a meal. Somebody went into their coffers and said, we're going to give you $10 of our hard-earned money. Those 2,000 people that have done that, this movement does not happen without those people. So it's still going to get done regardless. But those organizations that have done it, shouts to Brandon Combs, over at Firearms Policy Coalition. Shouts to Tisma Jewett. over at the National Shooting Sports Foundation. Shouts to, John McNamara over at NSSF. Shouts to these organizations that said, we like what he's doing. We've watched him. He hasn't pretended to be something he's not. And he's bringing new blood into the demographic. And, going back to your question of, that's what I think the gun community needed. It's going to be repetitive. You're going to be talking about beginner stuff over and over and over again. But that's the work, and that's what you got to do.
That's awesome. We have another question. Steven wants to know, or Steven says he really likes what you're doing and what you're talking about. Many thanks. Who are some of the people that have inspired you?
Oh, so Hickok saved my life. Literally. One time I was supposed to go rob, me and my friend was going to go rob this dude. And this was years ago when I first started getting put on to Hickok's channel. And we say we're going to go rob these dudes. And mind you, for those of y'all that don't know, I'm a reformed scumbag, okay? I have one misdemeanor on my jacket for selling bootleg movies. But, I got out. It's a probability you got out. We were supposed to go rob some dude. And I went in the house to wait till it was later. And I wound up staying around, hanging out, watching, Hickok videos in the house. And my homie hit me up and was like, yo, you ready? I'm like, yo, man, let's just do that. I'm chilling right now. Let's get him later. He went anyway and got killed. I was watching Hickok 45 videos. So when I met him, so I've been at the compound, and they don't really let people come to the compound. And Hickok was very instrumental in that. Just knowing that there's such a breadth and long list of firearms to choose from and things that you have to know, which plays to my understanding of me going, yeah, I'm not a gun guy. Hickok's a gun guy. You know what I'm saying? So Hickok has been very inspirational. Argo J, hella inspirational. Argo J, like one of the first guys that I saw that was doing high definition videos on YouTube. Who else has been very inspirational? Ken Blanchard, the guy with Black Man with a Gun. He had a website before the NRA. You know what I'm saying? Very inspirational guy. Who else has been inspirational? Mike, Knockout Lights, gives away so much information for free. The guys over at Sage Dynamics, their YouTube channel, I learned a lot from them. Rob Pincus, I've learned, and that's a friend of mine. I've learned Rob creates curriculums for entire agencies to learn from. So see, these are some of the people, that I'm inspired by. Some of the guys, I just did an Instagram live with a brother named King Erner. Felon, did state and federal time. Changed his life around. Teaching young people this is the way that you don't want to go. I'm inspired by people that have a nuanced, guys like Mike from Knockout Lights and Rob Pincus are instructors that are they're at a cerebral point. They're like Bruce Lee as instructors. They're not afraid to try something different because they understand that, your fight is your fight. You can't make up every possible scenario for what the bad guy's going to do. So you have to train yourself outside of just the standard, and those are guys that have done that. And those are some of the people that I've tremendously, that I've looked up to.
That's awesome. What, before we get too far, I want to get into the actual what Black Guy, the seminar and the education that it does. But I had a question, and it kind of goes back to the NRA and some other things. As far as the Shaneen Allen case, I imagine that you're aware with that case.
Yeah, Shaneen's my friend.
Did the NRA come to her support at all?
Okay. And that's why I'm mad at him. I'm like, damn, y'all, why aren't y'all talking about that? Forget me and Black Guns Matter for a second. Why aren't y'all highlighting that? Why aren't y'all supporting Shaneen? Why aren't and let me not say that they're not supporting. They helped her tremendously through that entire time. Now, maybe it's some political thing that I'm not aware of, but Hall of Fame checklist of how they could be highlighting that more consistently. They should be flying. Shaneen should be working for the NRA. They should hire her to talk about her experience, and that's outreach. Shaneen should be on the outreach committee. These are the types of things. Otis McDonald, Like, that doesn't happen in Chicago without the NRA's involvement. So yeah, Shanine's a good. That's why we partnered with Bursa. Bursa was a gun company. She had a Bursa firearm. For those of y'all that don't know, Shanine Allen was the young lady that was licensed to carry in Philadelphia or Pennsylvania, drove across the bridge to Jersey, knew she had the firearm, told the law enforcement officer, just didn't know. Bursa stood with her during that entire time. They didn't have to, and that's a stand-up thing to do. But yeah, the NRA definitely supported her during that time. And I'm mad at them for not highlighting that more,
Yeah, I wasn't aware that they helped. I was under the impression that they didn't help, and I was mad at them for that, because I'm like, this is a landmark case where we talk about, crossing a bridge. It's not about saving lives; it's about controlling people. And here it is, where the cop tells her, if you would have just kept your mouth shut, the judge tells her, if you would have kept your mouth shut, and then the same DA that offered Ray Rice pretrial diversion for knocking his girlfriend out, was like, here it is, a single mother of 3 that didn't hurt anybody, was honest and forthright with law enforcement. You can do 3 years in prison and lose your gun rights forever, but Ray Rice knocked a woman out on camera. And
yeah,
I was blown away. Okay. Yeah, I was like, man, how did you not get behind that case?
I'm pretty sure they
got behind the case. What they didn't do, again, and I'm not speaking for Shanine, this is my perspective. We flew Shanine Allen out to one of our earlier roundtable discussions because her story resonates with young mothers. The reason why she picked that particular Bursa is because it had external safeties. Most beginning people, they're not carrying conditions, stage 1 or whatever. They're not doing that. They're nervous. They know that they haven't had a certain level of training, but, they want the external safety, but they want to have a firearm. Every single mom in urban America resonates with that. Duh. They should hire Shanine Allen. Shanine Allen should be getting $50,000, $60,000 a year to traveling around the country, telling urban America, especially single moms, this was my experience. This is how you cannot fall victim to that. This is how we can help. I'm mad at them for that. I understand that the NRA is the big dog, right? They lobby. All of those other organizations, they fight cases, but the NRA ILA lobbies, and we need that on. But I want to be critical. If we all in the same brotherhood and sisterhood, I want to be able to pull my brother to the side and tell him where they messing up at, And that's a clear case. Like you said, you didn't even know that they helped, and that's what I'm talking about. How could you say that this organization is racist if they helped her with her legal fees?
Yeah, I was completely unaware of it, and I'm pretty sure I had told people that they didn't help with it. Like, the NRA didn't help out with it, but she did have some freedom-loving conservative groups come to her aid. So I'd imagine with Black Guns Matter, I want to get into what that looks like for students and participants in that. What part of your mission is to prevent the next Shanine Allen from happening?
All of it. I mean, because that was a case of her not knowing the rules. You know what I mean? Again, the first class that we had, people from Jersey came to the class and was like, yo, I want to give me the paperwork so I can fill it out. I'm like, well, you live in Jersey. You live behind enemy lines. You in a slave state. That the lack of information was astounding. Now, again, we're not talking about guys that was like, yeah, I want you to show me how to get a gun so I can go kill people. These were guys that were saying, what do I have to do? And
move.
You're right. With that being the case, the vast majority of the class is, let me give you the information so you don't catch the case. I got a guy that worked at TD Bank. I always use him as the example. Worked at TD Bank. Never caught a case in his life. Straight-laced. Teller at the bank. You're not a teller at the bank with the criminal history. It's not happening. Teller at the bank. Lives in North Philly. Buys a firearm lawfully. Pays for it with his debit card. Clear. Gets pulled over by the police. Doesn't know that he had to spend $20, fill out some paperwork, get the license to carry. Gets caught with the firearm, loses his job, loses his apartment because he got a felony now. That's not the bag. He is not John Dillinger. That's the guy that comes to the class that is like, please tell me what to do. I live in the middle of a war zone. I want to protect myself. How can I do it lawfully? The vast majority of the people that come to our classes fit under that model. Again, that means the vast majority of the people that come to our classes we're helping to prevent be the next him or the next Shanine Allen.
That's awesome. What does it look like for students? Is it I guess, how long is it? And what does the first couple hours look like for attendees?
So the first couple of hours is, these are the basic things that we go through at all of the classes. A lot of them have a shooting component as well. But some of them, depending on the state that you're in or city that you're in. In Detroit, there's no gun ranges in the actual city limits. So we'll do the shooting portion the following day, maybe somewhere on the outskirts, right? But the things that we can go over, without even there having to be actual live, rounds or ammunition or actual firearms, conflict resolution, de-escalation. What is the process of getting your firearm? What is the process of getting your license to carry? What is the concept of the Second Amendment? How does that relate to you in urban America? As well as what are the safety components, of a firearm? We usually work with, SIRT pistols. Shout to them. Shout to Next Level Training SIRT pistol. Or we work with blue guns, but it's basic stance, grip, sight alignment, sight picture, very, very entry level basic things in regards to the firearm. But the vast majority of the class is, how can we make sure that you know the process? What do you have to do? Can we package this for you so you know exactly what you have to do? And can we plug you with that trainer? So if we get all of those things out of the way in a free class, when you get to that trainer, you already know exactly what you got to do. You're taking training with that person while you're waiting for your paperwork to come back. So we're streamlining the process a bit. It's like law enforcement. We call cops for too many things. Don't call the cops because your cat is in a tree. Stop it. Stop. Either get a ladder, get your cat down itself, or let natural selection happen for your cat. It's a feline. It comes from lions and tigers. I'm pretty sure the cat will figure it out. We do the same thing with instructors. We want them to walk us through every single component of everything. And some instructors are great with that. For us, if we can make it a little bit easier for those instructors, if we've gotten the sound basics already in that person's mind, we have them an understanding of what exactly they have to do. We've gotten some of those questions out of the way. Do I need to have a license to carry to go to the range? No, you don't. You know what I'm saying? If we've gotten some of those legalities, the process, and the safety components out of the way, we've paved the way for that instructor to not have to spend so much time on those things, and they can get right to the more technical components of it. So for our classes, we get you legal. We usually have lawyers at the class. We link you with the instructor. We get you the understanding of the Second Amendment, the Bill of Rights, and the Constitution. We show you how your laws are infringements while showing you how to follow the law. Then we say, after you follow this law, you have to now be politically involved so you can overturn this law, because this law is an infringement on your human right as stated in the Second Amendment of the Bill of Rights. That's what every class you're going to get from us for free.
Awesome.
That's awesome. That's huge. Tim, we're going to get to your questions in just a minute, but I wanted to come back to, so you said day two will sometimes be on, or day two will gosh, man, I'm going to have to edit all that out. So the shooting will sometimes take place on day two. In other places that you go, is it also on day one, or what does that look like?
So it's both. So if we're doing it at a range, we do it like Fight Club, especially with beginners. If this is your first time to Fight Club, you have to fight. You know what I'm saying? We do it the same way. If this is your first time at a gun range, you have to shoot. We just secured something with coming down the pipe with Phoenix Ammunition, which is a company that does work out of Detroit. They're going to be our ammo sponsor. So now they're going to donate 50,000 rounds to us. So, because beginners, they're not doing mag dumps. They're going through maybe 1 or 2 mags. They get the process, so forth and so on. But a lot of those classes, we can have the whole thing right in day one. you know, and they'll go through a couple of rounds or a mag or two, and they get that process. They shake the dust off, and they link up with that instructor. So whether it's a day two is depending upon how many days we're gonna be in that city. Again, does that city has a range made itself available to us? Is that range available? Sometimes we'll do it in a church. We did one in Denver with the guys from Guns for Everyone. They have one of Colorado's largest free firearm safety and training courses that's been going on for years. We'll do the firearms component, the safety training and all of that in the church, which I thought was dope. You know what I mean? But most of the times, if it's at a range, we doing that educational component part. After we get through that, we're giving you the safety component. The RSOs are giving the safety component, and then you're right on the range, putting rounds down range.
So that leads me to my next question, Maj. I have two questions, actually. The first one is serious. The second one, I'm just going to joke with you. The first one is, what type of drills do you run your students through? As far as you may be dealing with people who have never touched a firearm before. So what kind of drills do you put them through? What distances, that kind of thing? And the second question is 9mm or 45?
9. Let's deal with the first one first. 9. It's available. It's cheaper. Ballistically, it's not that much of a difference for me to justify the price difference. So sorry, guys. Shot placement over stopping power all day. Sorry.
Yeah. So drills. Talk to us about drills.
Right. So for me, when that happens, so depending upon the range that we're in, right? I don't run them through any drills because that instructor or that RSO, or that instructor that's there, I want our students to build a relationship with that instructor. And if that instructor is worth their salt in any way, shape, or form, they're going to immediately detect areas. Oh, your stance is off here, 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 here. Okay, your thumbs aren't really pointing out the right way. I want that student to build the relationship and the rapport with that instructor. I'm out. I got you here. You've listened to me rant and rave about how these infringements are happening. Now you have to listen to that instructor. I've probably vetted that instructor, watched them. They may not even know it before I even reach out to them. If they got a YouTube channel, it helps tremendously. You know what I mean? And so for me, a beginner, targets aren't that far. We're trying to get their sight alignment, their sight picture in position. We're getting them to handle, managing recoil. We're getting them to understand what the difference between center fire and whatever else is. We're getting them to the point of a lot of people that come to our classes, again, have had trauma. I've had parents that have come to our classes with the BBC to film documentaries, and they've lost children. Their other son that they've brought to the class, their brother was murdered. So to even get to a point to get to that mother and that brother to touch a blue gun is progress. So for me, it's not necessarily about me running them through drills. Each person, some people are naturals. I had a student in our Boston class a few weeks ago, first shot ever. He getting X shots off top, maybe 10 yards away. You know what I mean? So some things are just people are natural. Some people, we run them through 2 or 3 different guns because of their hand sizes or whatever. But I like to leave a lot of that up to that particular instructor because I want that relationship. They're not there to keep kicking it with me. They're there to learn from that instructor, and it's good for that instructor's business. It's good for that instructor's business. If they're comfortable with that instructor, and that instructor shows them, improvement in a short period of time, they're more willing to learn and stay on that path. That's
awesome. So, that is a great answer to a very mediocre question, and that's awesome. What type of, and I'm going to kick it back to Jeremy here after this, but what type of preparation do your students need when they sign up for your class? What do they need to prepare for?
They need to prepare to be exposed to a lot of the lies that have been told to us Americans culturally. They need to understand that we're not trying to convert you into being gun people. We just know that you've been lied to. And we just want to give you information for you to make the decision on your own. If you want to come to the classes and don't want to touch a firearm, cool. We're not going to beat you in the head. We save ammo that way, honestly. You know what I'm saying? We just want people to understand that, all pun intended, this is a safe space. There are no, silly questions. We're here to service you, to put you on a path to defending your value systems. That's it. You don't have to study. You don't have to, bring a notebook. We have, pens and paper available for you. We just want you to come with an open mind. And if you have some concerns or trauma or questions about firearms and safety and conflict resolution, bring those questions. We don't want you. I'm a beginner. So if I'm saying that as the guy that's been running this Second Amendment organization for some years now, if I'm comfortable saying that, you definitely should feel comfortable saying that. Whatever questions you got, just bring the questions. But as far as like you got to have a specific knowledge, no, man. You're an open mind that's open to a different perspective. That's all you have to bring. Come as you are.
I like it. I like it a lot. Jeremy?
So how does somebody get you to come to their city? If somebody's listening to this and they want to get you to come out and do the Black Guns Matter in their city, how can they go about doing that?
They can just email us, info at officialblackgunsmatter.com. Email that, hey, we want you to come out. Janine will it won't be me because I'm horrible at emailing. Janine will probably send you the package and what you need, and we'll go from there. We available. Even if it's a gun class, cool, that's great. Even if it's just you want us to come out to show your instructors, because that's what I'm noticing too. A lot of instructors do not know how to deal with an urban demographic. They just don't. And so even if we can show you the walkthrough culturally of how do you engage urban Americans who have absolutely no knowledge? What is the cultural perspective that you've been missing? If it's something like that, we open to that. But if they want to set that up, info at officialblackgunsmatter.com. Set it up. We down.
That's awesome. Tim had another question that I wanted to get to. I should have had him on today because he's asking all the great ones. He wants to know, or he mentions that you did an amazing talk at SHOT Show, and that you made a massive difference. So that's awesome. But he asked if this has been difficult for you, and then what's been the most rewarding part about it.
It's been hella difficult because I made more money selling weed. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so I stopped doing all of these things cold turkey to do this work. I know that marijuana is lawful in some states. Federally, it's still Schedule 1, so I can't touch it. It's been difficult there. It's been a drain on spending time away from my family. And, just some of the backlash that I've gotten, from, to be quite honest, the gun community. I've the entire time said exactly what I was and exactly what I am not. And some of that I believe that felons, when they come home, should have the right to defend their life again. Some guys that I have friends and family that are law enforcement. Some guys in the law enforcement community, instead of just agreeing to disagree, have kind of like talked trash. So it's been difficult. I'd be rich by now if I was still trapping. I'm not a rich man. I bit off more than I could chew with the merchandise. I remember one time I woke up one morning, I did some interview or some big whatever platform. I woke up the next morning, I had 400 orders for shirts. I had a 4-way little press that I was making them myself, me and my team, right?
That's
and
awesome.
I was like, damn. So then you heard people going, that guy's ripping everybody off. And I'm not. It was just one person. I did a platform and it was 400 orders. So, the difficult part has been, it hasn't been from the anti-gun side, nor has it been from the people that we're reaching. It's been from guys from the community that don't see what exactly it is that I am. And it's been so, like you said, Like, where was this? It's like they don't know, like, what is this guy? And I'm not a gun showy off type of guy. So then then that rumor starts to spread, and that's been the biggest drain, you know. But the beauty of, and even that is, man, I've had 70-year-old women in our classes that for damn near 3/4 of a century have never touched a firearm in their life, and they were put on a path. When you take somebody that, when you see their mind switch from, man, I've had rape victims like feel empowered. Those are things that make it worth it. I've had people go, hey, man, I'm going to anonymously donate $2,000 to the work that you're doing. And we're able to, it's been times where it was tough for us, man. It was tough. And it was like, it was taking a toll on me physically, mentally, financially. But to have people go and just be like, here, it's like, man, those things make it worth it. And the biggest thing, man, is when you see young people committing to, I'm going to stay out of trouble because I want to lawfully do this. When you're talking about young men, 17, 18, they already got a gun. The guns are everywhere. But having their mentality to switch to, I'm going to do the right thing with this tool, and I'm going to stay on the straight and narrow until I'm 18 or 21 or whatever their city says they can, lawfully get their LTC. It's other than my family, there's nothing bigger or more important than that right now, man. From a demographic that was written off. Like us in the freedom community just ignored urban America. He just was like, yeah, well, they're just going to vote left, so forget them. Huh? Like we were left as a lost cause. And to see this many people at this point, it's been hundreds of thousands, if not 1 million people that we've affected. And that's what makes it worth it. And that's been the shining light.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and those are just the numbers that you can touch, right? It's not the person that, the single mother that's going to go home and instill those values in her children, or the single mother that's going to go home and she's going to have a conversation with her brother or sister and get them started on that path.
Yep.
And it's, I'm not, the conspiracy mind in me is like, man, if the NRA came out, I'd imagine they have consultants and stuff, but it blows me away that in 2015, from 2015 to 2019, this is a segment of the gun owning population, or not even that, a segment of people that have largely had their backs turned on them by the gun guys and the gun girls. And if you look at the demographics, it's probably the largest demographic that needs this information and this education and this training. And I can understand the frustration. And when you mentioned earlier about, people are showing up for a free class, it's harder to fill a free class than it is to fill a class where people are paying $100 for it.
And that's what's crazy to me. Our Compton class had like 500 people.
Holy cow. That's nuts.
And it's like a free class. What we notice is sometimes people will go, yeah, I'm coming. And they're like, well, I didn't pay for it, so whatever.
Yeah.
We started scaling back going, hey, we're only doing 50 people. You know what I'm saying? And it'll be 70 people like, yo, can I just, and that's the indication that urban America wants this. People do not pay it forward if they didn't want it. People are going, I'm giving you $50. You'll probably never come to my city, but I heard about you and I want it to happen in, whatever other city. And it is frustrating. And to me, if the NRA wanted, and I'm picking on them a little bit, I got love for them. I'm mad at a few people over there. I'm not trying to damage the relationships that I have, but I'm just little brother telling you where you kind of messing up a bit. And they should give us, it sounds money grubbing. It's not. They should give us $30,000. It's not going to be hard for them. It wouldn't. The ramifications of doing that, it wouldn't be, they're I'm not saying you got to have us on everything. I'm saying, yo, they're doing the work. We wanted to help them do their thing over there. That would send shockwaves throughout the industry. Shockwaves, And so it gets frustrating. But again, it's not their responsibility. We are responsibility.
Yeah, but But it is, I'm going to, if they're saying that it's just, and I like the NRA, I have some issues with recent things, and I get it. I'm in a local firearms advocacy group down here, and I can see kind of the political side of it now. But if you are for the Second Amendment, you're for the Second Amendment for everybody. And a lot of these anti-gun bills, it's people control, and I think they're doing a disservice to themselves and every gun owner by not supporting another firearms advocacy group that is going to reach more people. More people are going to come out of that demographic than are going to come out of the NRA's current demographic. I mean, there are 3 or 4 million people in the NRA compared to how many moms demand action and how many gun owners there are. So it's, yeah, you got to keep up the work, man. I see what you're doing now, and and I can imagine how frustrating and tiring it could be at sometimes. Especially, I'm not sure how many people you have down there helping you out, but I think this is something that absolutely needs to continue and needs to become more mainstream and more prevalent throughout the United States, because it's unfortunate that here we are 4 years later after that it started, and it's still a surprise that this hasn't been done before.
Yeah.
They're coming around.
That's good. That's good.
So Maj, tell all of our listeners that might hear this tonight, tomorrow, the next week, and a month after that. Tell us where we can find you. Where is the best place to touch base with Maj?
I'm pretty active on my Instagram and Twitter. That's at Maj Toure, at MAJTOURE. If you got, you want consulting or training or want to set up a class, the best way for that is info@officialblackgunsmatter.com. If anything that we've talked about today has moved you, whether you're in the live or you see this later, please support the work, man. I don't care if it's $10. We've already proven our level of commitment to doing the right thing with the money. GoFundMe.com/Black Guns Matter. If you want to say, hey, I can't give you $50 at once, but I'll sign up for $5 a month, go on Patreon, patreon.com/Black Guns Matter. We need this. We want to make sure that these classes remain free, because if that person that gets that information is able to save $50 or $100, and they learning, and in our classes we tell them, listen, you got to make a sacrifice. You go into the strip club this weekend, and that $200, $300 that you would have spent, put that away, save it for an instructor. If we getting this information part out to you for free, give that $200 to your local instructor. Do that 3 or 4 more times, right? Instead of you going to the bar or whatever, buy the bottle of like whiskey for $10 and have it in the house. You know what I mean? Instead of spending $100, then okay, every 3 or 4 weeks, go to your local gun shop, buy a gun from the gun shop in your neighborhood. Support the companies that, if you got to buy something online, support the companies that's in this fight. So saying that to say, if you've heard something today, and if you agree and you think that the work needs to continue to spread in urban America, that's why we want these classes to remain free. Because if we cut that cost down there, and if I'm telling those urbanites, our fellow brothers and sisters in urban America, telling them, look, you got to sacrifice and you got to get behind these companies and these trainers, we create a stronger economy around the freedom fight. And so, GoFundMe.com/Black Guns Matter.
Agreed.
Oh,
I guess that's it, guys.
I thought Jetson was going to have another follow-up question. What parting advice do you have for our listeners, Maj?
Please take a moment to look at the tremendously racist roots and spread of gun control. You don't want a gun? Cool. I'm not a gun guy. I'm a freedom guy. Please take a moment. Gun control is rooted in racism. I don't care if you're Italian, Asian, Mexican, Native, indigenous to this land. Every single major component of gun control has been pushed by some form of fear and racism. Please don't believe me. Please hop on DuckDuckGo, put it in a search engine, research it for yourself. when you see how we've been lied to, when you see how, certain politicians that, if you're from urban America especially, certain politicians that may have a more of a left-leaning slant have been lying to you, making themselves exempt from the same rules that they say you have to follow. When you see that, I promise you that you'll look at that spectrum a little bit differently. So please study. Please be safe. Please be responsible. Please, we're making ourselves available to you. Please reach out to us so we can help you. And this part is for, the guys that are suburban or rural, that are instructors, intermediate to expert level. Please reach out to us so we can help you. You need liaisons to urban America. We do not trust you. Sorry. The left has better PR. We don't trust you. You need liaisons. Please let us help. Please let us help. After that, after you get the cosign, you good. If you mess it up on your own after that, that's on you. But initially, please let us help you into urban America.
I love it.
That's awesome. Judson, what's your parting advice for our listeners?
So after that little epic speech by Maj, I think the only thing I got is let's see if I can find it. Always carry a big lighter with you, just in case you need to make fire, because what Maj just said is epic, and that is something that we all need to look at in the firearms industry and in the firearms world, is that all of this stuff that we're dealing with on a legislative level is all racist. I mean, it's at the root of it. It is racism, and so all I have to offer at this point is, I always kind of fall back on get training, and that's kind of the thing that I always talk about. But carry a big lighter. Make sure that you always have to have something that can make fire.
Makes sense.
I love it. Man, I'm looking forward to going back and re-listening to this episode.
Absolutely.
Remember, it's your life, it's your safety and protection, it's your responsibility. Y'all stay safe.